Welcome to High Noon live on LinkedIn, and I'm Joni Peddie, and I'll be sharing with you today some really juicy sleep news. So let's start off with the Dr. Zhivago quote. Falling asleep is a passive process, but the harder you try, the harder it gets. So on to some news items for today. The world is very different at 3 a.m., isn't it? You're staring at the ceiling, you're perhaps staring at your partner next to you, snoring, listening to that, and it's just exacerbating the adrenaline, the cortisol, just that firing up feeling of what's going to happen tomorrow if I can't sleep. So I'm going to share a few tips with you to really alleviate that anxiety and most importantly, to enable you to have a good night's sleep. So the first news item is from Dr. Alison Bentley. She is like the South African Ariana Huffington. She's been working on sleep for 31 years. And it was interesting. I attended a seminar of hers recently, in fact, a week ago, and she was teaching various doctors from around the world this whole bell curve aspect of sleep. Now, when you talk about sleep, people are saying, oh yes, it's 8 hours, I've got to get 8 hours. But there's a bell curve. So the bell curve says yes, minimum 7, it says maximum 9, but you need to know yourself. So we all fit onto this bell curve somewhere. If I talk in the first person, I know if I'm feeling a bit kind of scratchy throat and not my best, I battle to really wake up in less than 8 hours. So I definitely need 8 hours if my body's fighting inflammation. However, if I'm feeling my normal self and bright and sprightly like today, I wake up naturally after about 7.25 hours. So as Aristotle said, knowing thyself is the beginning of wisdom. So I really wanted to share this news item with you because it alleviates the stress and the cortisol, and I've got to have those 8 hours. Know yourself. It's a genetic kind of coding that we have. You may need slightly less than 7. You may need slightly more than 8. Know where you are on that bell curve. It's really quite forgiving so that you're not slave to a number. Right, let's get on to news item number 2. So news item number 2 is all about your chronotype. Do you know what that means? Are you a lark or are you a night owl? So when I talk about this, I really want us to kind of get to know ourselves again. And I know, for instance, I'm a lark. I love rising early in the morning and I love getting my day started really early. My late husband was the same, and actually it makes for really good marital bliss if you're the same chronotype. I've got 2 daughters. They are 22 and 24. My 24-year-old runs with me. She's a lark. She gets up early. My 22-year-old is a night owl. Not a ton of, kind of wild men and wild horses would get up at early in the morning to do any form of exercise. So it's really interesting to know yourself, to know whether you're a lark or an owl. The news item here is really about if you know your chronotype, you also know how that really enhances or affects your career. So I speak to some restaurant owners who say, thank goodness they're a night owl because they're closing up late at night. And of course, gym instructors or spinning instructors are larks. In fact, I love spinning. When I go at 5:15 in the morning, I'm not awake, I can promise you. But after the second song, I'm va-va-vum awake. And I marvel at those spinning instructors because they've been there since 5 a.m. They've got that motivating loud voice. They've got their playlist lined up, and they are really working effectively at 5 a.m. in the morning. So know your chronotype. And if you don't know your chronotype, you can certainly go to our website and there's a little assessment that you can do. And that's in the blog section of our website. There's a lovely little blog article about that. And now let's go on to the news item number 3. And this is really fascinating for me because I've been playing with my own body clock. And on the screen with me, you can see that there's a circadian rhythm. So what happens here is that we've got the sun that rises in the morning, depending on where you are and the time of the year. And when that sun rises, your brain is already saying, let's produce some cortisol. We've got to get going. And of course, when we were hunter-gatherers, we were out in the veldt and we were making sure that we weren't kind of chased by that lion. So we needed the cortisol to keep us wide awake and alert and, lots of attention and see what's happening around us. And then the day progresses, and then as you come to sunset, what happens is the brain says, let's reduce that cortisol and let's produce melatonin. So this news item is all about the fact that we are really battling worldwide with far too much blue light. So we've got that from our LED lights in our ceiling, we have got that from our screens, from our television, etc. And it's really playing havoc with our sleep. So if we look at the sleep research now, 2023 and 2022, I should say we're not in 2023 yet, that's a slip of the tongue, but recent research compared to research done in the 1980s, we are seeing that people are sleeping on average 63 minutes less than they used to. So that's worldwide research. And that is because we are really seduced by social media and we're seduced by Netflix binging, etc. And we're saying it's a tough world out there with a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear, so let me watch more, either on TV or perhaps with this hybrid working, we are playing a bit during the day or watching children's sport in the afternoon and then having to catch up on those dreaded emails at night. So this blue light goes into our eyes, it affects our brain. In what way? This pineal gland in your brain, it's a little gland up here, produces melatonin, and we are not getting enough melatonin. What is melatonin used for? It's actually the onset of sleep. So if you are battling to fall asleep at night because your brain is just whizzing on all the things you should have done, could have done, must do differently tomorrow, it could be because you have too little melatonin. So really, what are we going to do about it? After the break, we are going to speak about how we can bounce forward, how we can think differently, feel differently, and what actions we should take, because this is the state of play. You are going to live in houses with LED lighting, you're going to have your TV on, you're going to have to maybe respond to those emails, and of course our dreaded mobile phones are going to be answering messages. And to relax, I know some of us are on that Instagram and kind of just vegging out, seeing what other people are doing around the world. So after the break, we are going to have Jacques Prinsloo, and he'll speak to us about blue blocking glasses. That's a bit of a mouthful, and really what we can do differently as a biohack into the kind of life that we live, and knowing that we're not going to change some of our habits.